Hello and welcome. This is the 11th episode of the Bits vs. Bytes podcast. I am your host, Amir Sabirovic, and today my guest is Amir Sabirovic. He's from TM7 Innovations and he is COO there. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Amir.
Could you start off by telling a little bit about your background and how you got to TM7?
Yeah, of course. Well, I have a background in software development, and during my study in 2007, I had my own development company. I outsourced my software development to the countries of former Yugoslavia, which, as you can assume, I come from.
Yeah.
And I did it for a very long time, but then I was hit as the most with the financial crisis of 2009 and so on. So in 2010, I switched to management consulting. Mm-hmm. And I advised a lot of medium-sized and large corporations in the Netherlands on software and innovation. I did that within the oldest management consultancy company in the Netherlands. And I did it for some time, and then it got a bit boring. So I got an opportunity to set up a new company for them because I still had the entrepreneurial urge.
Yeah.
So I set up a company focused on artificial intelligence, especially the quantitative side. And I did it for 3 years. And I really enjoyed it, transitioning companies to digital thinking, but also employing the data to, make better business. And after a while, everything goes well. And then you ask yourself, okay, there is more to it than, relaxed life. So I was looking around, and I know the CEO of TM7 for a very long time. And we always had good discussions on, concepts, on technology, etc. And this was the switch to qualitative side, so natural language processing, which is the core business of TM7. Mm-hmm. And he said, don't search further, you're going to work with me. So this was my initial switch to TM7, and I'm there for 10 months right now.
Oh, okay. And what spoke to you about the organization as a company? So what drew you to actually join TM7?
Well, I was looking around and I had offerings from large corporations with 3,500 men and startups that were actually basing their knowledge on what I know. And I was really looking for something to stretch me, to, put me out of my comfort zone and, go into a real startup, because the company where I've come from is actually a company based on a larger mother company. And then you always have security. Working with a startup, well, we know it's never certain. So this is a nice feeling to have. And actually the company culture where we are all dispersed throughout Netherlands, but, we are really, the new ways of working is implemented. So we use Slack, Zoom, Skype, everything to communicate with each other. So the physical presence is not necessary, but we do come together. So that combined as a startup was really appealing to me.
Yeah, so it's the remote working and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. So you're not bounded by a workplace. You're bounded by the work that you have to do. And I even in the summer times we know that the Netherlands is kind of dead in business terms.
Yeah.
So I ask can I go and work 2 weeks from Bihać, Bosnia, where I'm from? And my CEO said, well, no problem. We'll Slack, Zoom, or whatever if you're needed.
Yeah. So it's kind of, you can, it really doesn't matter where you are. You can just work and do your stuff, right?
Yes. As long as your presence is not needed at the customer side, then
of course.
You can work, from Mars.
Yeah,
as long as you have an internet connection.
And what does TM7 do for the clients? So what do you provide as a service?
Yeah. So we have developed a platform that is that it has NLP as the core, so natural language processing. And what we do is we extract needed information for large amounts of data. So we're talking about documents and unstructured data, and not only in digital form, but also paper form.
Okay.
And we do this for financial services, we do this for municipalities, and what you can imagine is when you're talking about millions of pages of documents and you need to extract certain information like bank account number or your first and last name, address, we're very good at doing that.
Yeah,
and then
go ahead.
And then presenting it to the system that is actually processing this information.
And how do you do that with the paper form? So, do you first inject that into your system, or how does it work?
Yeah, so it depends on the client side. We have an OCR engine, so we put PDF. It's for PDF to text, so we make it a readable PDF. And then from that is our base input, and our engine can process all the data.
Yeah, so you have to be, you have to have it scanned in, right? So you have to have the paper scanned in before you can actually go through all the documents that you have. And looking at that language processing, what is interesting to me is what kind of languages do you support at the moment?
Well, it's Dutch. But we can also do English. So that's a very interesting thing, is that, of course, you have Google that is very good at language. Amazon is moving up, etc. But Dutch is very specific and complicated grammatically.
Yeah.
And we have tackled the Dutch, and we're very, I believe we're leading in the Netherlands. And from Dutch to English, so switching from processing Dutch and then processing English is easy, but from English to Dutch, that is not done.
It's harder, yeah. And because you do Dutch and you do English, what was the most complicated thing about the Dutch? Is that really the grammar that's really difficult, or?
Yes, it's the grammar, because we do contextual analysis, so we decise all the sentences. So we're talking in English, so I cannot give you an example where you're saying man met een houten been. So
man with a wooden leg.
Wooden leg, so all three things are grammarly a physical object, but also a municipality name in the Netherlands.
Because you have Houten, which is actually
yes, and also it's a municipality, and been is also a municipality. So how do you figure out in grammatically what the contextual meaning of that sentence is? So this is one of our core components. We can dissect the sentence that way, so we can know and understand what's written down.
Yeah. So the software that you create, is that all created in-house? So do you have your own developers?
Yes, it's our core IP. So everything that is developed is owned.
Yeah, and is that
proprietary?
And is that all in-house? So you have your developers in your office or whatever? Yeah.
Yes, we have developers in-house. We have one of the best linguistic data scientists, or the NLP experts, as you may, in the Netherlands. And around him, we have a team of developers that are transforming the development from his side to interfaces, and which is also used at the customer side.
And how do clients use your platform? So how do they actually? What's kind of a real life example of why someone would do this kind of natural language processing?
Well, I'll give you a very current example. You all know about GDPR. So we're all abided to abide the law of privacy. Municipalities in the Netherlands have to anonymize or pseudonymize all data that is publicized, and they're abided by law to do so. So if you send a letter to a municipality asking for a permit, they have to make that publicly available. So for large municipalities, but also small municipalities, this is a problem, because there is a human being doing the anonymizing manually.
So actually checking if there is a person name or whatever.
Yes, and then making it black, scanning it in, and making it publicly available. So this is a routine job that is not accurate, but it's labor intensive. So what we do is we have developed a specific solution based on our platform for municipalities, where they have two folders in and out. They drag and drop their documents, and from on one side the document comes in as regularly, and on the other side you have an anonymized document which they can publicize immediately. and it goes even further, where it will be made available that as soon as a document comes in, a request from a citizen, you can actually have a checkbox, and it's automatically anonymized and make publicly available.
That's crazy, because they probably have a big archive as well of a lot of documents that
it's
they
called the attic.
Yeah, it's actually called the attic.
Yeah.
And so they take all those documents that they have. Maybe I don't know how much that can be, but
should I say it in kilometers?
Yeah, sure.
I believe that the Dutch government in general has 400 kilometers of archive.
Okay.
And this is page after page, so in the length.
Yeah. So that's a lot
From
of
here
documents.
to Frankfurt. Yeah.
That's a lot of documents. No, the interesting thing there is, I think that it's something we don't think about yet, because there is the whole GDPR and stuff like that all came along, and everybody was like, okay, but I also have a lot of documents that just have those kind of things in them, right? And
you don't even realize.
Yeah, and I think that's for me, it's interesting to see that you kind of provide a service that takes away the manual labor in it, which was where computers came in in the first place, right?
Well, it's actually giving your employees the possibility to do more significant and important things, instead of making your name and last name and your address black.
Yeah, because I think that person that needed to do that probably quit shortly after that, because it takes a while to do that for a lot of documents.
Yes, and this is also it pauses the process, because you cannot anonymize that much document that fast. So that means that you're not processing enough information that you can make publicly available.
And there are, you mentioned a lot of other parties that can also do natural language processing. So how do you think you differ from, for example, things like Amazon Comprehend, which is also a text analysis tool, or Google Cloud Natural Language, for example? How do you think you differ from them, or what's kind of your unique selling point in respect to those kind of companies?
I think one of the most important one is that all things that we are doing are practically proven. So they're not in proof of concept, they're not in pilots, they really work, and they have a process that is already available and doing things within a large financial institution or municipality. So we are not talking. We're putting our products in practice.
Yeah, you have a track record.
Yeah, so it's not like we are a startup and that we're figuring out how to use NLP and we have some products. No, we have proven track record, and on Dutch and English. And the next best thing is that we actually always are co-creating with the clients. So there is no one size fits all for natural language processing. And people don't even think about how complex language is. There are a lot of examples. Of course, I cannot show it visually to you, where we assume that we're talking about the same thing, but the interpretation of language is one of the difficulties.
It's a big thing,
Yeah. And of course, you have large companies, and Google has all the data, but we don't see them as they're focusing on rather other things that we are focusing on.
Yeah, because they really don't. Well, I don't know if they do things with documents, but mostly it's, okay, I send you some text and you analyze it and let me know, okay, this is the sentiment or whatever. So do you also provide that as a service? So kind of sentiment analysis? Or
we did sentiment analysis, but so that is another field within natural language processing that is interesting. And there are companies, as we discussed previously, there are companies that solely focus on that, and they can do a much better job than we do. And sentiment analysis on its own is best, for example, in social media. So you have companies that provide you a service for that, and that's quite easy.
Yeah. So do you use things like which have been kind of a hype, so like things like AI or whatever to kind of get things working? Because I know you're pretty vocal about your about what you mean about and the use of AI and what does it mean, and actually what kind of state it is in right now. So could you tell a little bit about that?
Yeah. So AI on its own is a general hype, as you know, and you have seen, because I'm pretty loud about it. You always see the hype more than you see the critics. So AI actually consists of 7 technologies, which NLP is one of the fundamentals. So teaching your computer to understand the human language. Then you have machine learning, neural networks, vision, voice, etc. So these are all specific technologies that are used, and when all these are combined, then you should have a kind of AI. But that's not true, because integration of software or solutions are hell of a job, and we're not there yet. So when you say AI, my opinion is there is no AI. There are some techniques that you use to do stuff within NLP, and this is what we do. So we use techniques that are underlying the technologies that represent the AI, and we use them within our solutions.
Okay, so you basically are saying that the kind of, let's put it in quotes, the AI that you use is mostly algorithms that figure stuff out, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and do you think that that is what people really mean with what they are talking about AI at the moment? So do you think it's more that it's actually algorithms that are doing it and not real AI? Or
yeah, I think there is no AI. It's of course easiest way to explain something like that, something complex as that. And I don't know, probably people or listeners have experience, but analyze your own process, what you're doing right now, and think about it, what is needed for that to be taken over by a robot, or AI. So we have routines that can be taken over by some kind of automations.
For example, machine learning, where you take a large set of data where you do an algorithm over.
Exactly. And then in the end, you always have a person that is transcription or making a decision. And in most cases, in most companies, there are a few things that are lacking. There is no data. There is no high quality data. It's, at certain desk in Excels, there is no
different systems.
Exactly. They don't have the same uniform naming for it. And then you have the process description, and there is no process description. When you ask the most people why they do what they do like they do, they will say, well, we have always done it like that. So the certain aspects that you need to automate are lacking. They're not. So take, for example, a deep learning. For deep learning, you need large amount of data. So this is one of the biggest differences when you look at our solutions on NLP. We need few documents. That is enough for us to get us going. While deep learning would need thousands, millions documents, to terabytes of documents to understand what you're doing. And then you have only solved a specific vertical. When you want to apply it to another document or another situation, it doesn't do. So where's the intelligence in that?
So what would you see as real AI then? What does that mean to you if it's real AI?
For me, a real AI, and then so if all these technologies and all the techniques will be integrated, and you have your cell phone and you're talking with your cell phone with immediate feedback, vision, and analysis, then you have like human level AI. So or we're talking about the general AI, and I believe that is not achievable. I believe that certain functions or certain verticals, like eye cancer detection or anomaly detection or voice recognition, all the specifics will be achieved.
Yeah, because we are already doing that in most cases, right?
Yes, but combined, like having a computer that is capable of doing that all at the same time, that's really hard. And I believe that we're in the peak of inflated expectations of AI.
Yeah, because it's still a new field. I mean, even the machine learning thing, which is it has been around for a while, but it's still in kind of an infancy
stage. The concepts are 50 years old.
Yeah,
it's the only thing that has changed is the processor capacity and the volume
we can do
capacity.
More. Yeah,
and other than that, we haven't invented anything new yet. We're only applying it to more things. And I believe that the biggest challenge that we're posed to is having people understand technology and what it means. So not AI as a container, but understanding the technologies and techniques beneath, and being able to define a business problem or a case, and then look at which technologies do we need, and how can we apply them to solve our process problems or business problems or whatever within companies. Yeah. I think this approach is not fully applied yet. At this point, most companies are me too.
Yeah.
Well, everybody is doing it, so let us do it as well. And this is also why a lot of pilot projects fail, because the essential question at the beginning was never posed.
Yeah, the question about what are you going to actually solve.
Yeah.
You see that in the kind of home automation spheres as well, where you see the Alexa thing, so the Google Home and stuff like that. It's all fine and dandy, but what is it actually going to solve for me in my home? I don't know.
Well, it's going to solve for Google or for Amazon, so they can detect anything you're using, so they can sell you more.
Yeah.
So in the end, you're the product.
Yeah. And how do you, when looking at Google, what do you think about the thing that they did with the duplex thing? So where they had like a call, someone was calling I think it was the kind of the computer voice was actually calling the restaurant to do a reservation and stuff like that. What do you think about that?
I think that all large corporations with enough marketing funding can do awesome things for the eye. So I would really want to see it, and experience it on my laptop or my phone.
Yeah.
So see it in practice. I think it's made.
So you think it's more like a demo than it's actually something that's really existing?
Yes. I've experienced, without mentioning the name, a few situations where we were invited and companies were invited that pretend to have an AI, as you may, and under the hood, there was a keywords finder. So that was like control F, on your word. So they had an enormous marketing budget, and when you look at it, you would say, well, if I buy this, all my life problems will be solved. This thing can do anything for me. And then you go deeper and analyze what it really does. And the customers that wanted to do that were very surprised in a negative way.
Yeah, because keyword search is not going to give you that real language processing and the contextual thing that you were talking about earlier, right? Yeah, so
this is maybe just to add to you. We live in the era of fake news, and people want to believe. And of course, it's very good to have a vision for the future and that we're going to do astonishing thing. So I'm not pessimistic, but I always want to get down to the earth, and okay, it's very beautiful that we want to have AI, but let's see what is right now and what it does for us. And the reality is that marketing is always sweeter than the reality, the bitterness of the reality.
Yeah, because if it's the same thing with the thing that they have already. I mean, the things with the Google Home and in their kind of marketing stuff, they really can almost do anything. But when you really buy that thing and you really test it out, it just it doesn't make sense. It's in some cases it's actually stupid. it's actually dumb. It doesn't know what you're really. In some cases, it's pretty accurate and it's pretty good in what they do. But you kind of notice still that it's kind of a dumb thing. Right, even though it's pretty smart, it's still dumb in terms of human capacity.
So the real difference, and I think this is also the comparison that we shouldn't make, is understand that you cannot compare artificial intelligence with human intelligence because we have abstract thinking, we're emotional, we're creative, and we can make very tough decisions based on little or no data. And computer
needs
cannot.
Data.
Needs data. They're actually electrons jumping from the circuits left and right. So there is no consciousness. So I think the computers or the systems or whatever you may call them provide us with the right augmented knowledge and information, and we as humans can derive our decisions based on that. So it's a tool. It's not something that is going to take over.
Yeah. So do you think that will come in some kind of a Terminator scenario where where the robots will take over? Because I was looking at a short clip a while ago of the Boston Dynamics thing that was part of Google.
DARPA.
Yeah. So the thing that they were doing with the robots that can actually scale up, for example, boxes and stuff like that. And
I saw it.
That was pretty creepy to me. Of course, you know that robot is not smart. In the sense that they probably just programmed it to do that.
Exactly.
Do you think that we'll get in that kind of a scenario where they could take over, where they can actually get that smart?
I don't think that they will get smart, but I think that if we have robots that are killing machines, so if we equip robots, mechanical robots, with machinery that is designed to hurt other persons, we always have evil people on Earth. So you can imagine that you'll be able to hack a tank or hack a plane or hack a robot and control them on a distance. This is like last month, I believe I saw that somebody posted something about they made a game where collecting apples was a key goal. And they put two algorithms to each other, but they gave them the possibility if the algorithm should decide to shoot another algorithm to collect more apples, it should do so. So, of course, after certain levels, they start shooting each other just to do so. And then they said, well, these algorithms or AI is aggressive and they pose a threat. And I believe the destruction comes from the humankind because the algorithm didn't figure out they could also have said, okay, if you collect more apples than your opponent, share. But humankind is not that of a sharing kind.
Yeah.
So
it was programmed to do that.
Exactly. So the bias, our convictions, etc., everything that we hold for ourselves will be implemented into algorithms that steer those machines. So it's always the human being that is in control, and it's always our urge for destruction that is implemented into machines.
Yeah, that's also the thing that when I talk to a lot of people, it is a hype. I mean, we can pretty much agree on that. It's a hype, and a lot of those hypes come along. There was a hype for example, for the voice stuff, which is still going on, I think. Which I do see potential for it. I mean, there is a potential for the whole voice thing at home and stuff like that. But it's still a gimmick. And I think it's also the case in AI where everybody's saying like AI, but it's actually machine learning, right? It's something that was already there. I'm wondering if it will come to a stage where we really don't see the difference anymore. So we don't see a difference between what a computer is doing and what it actually is processing and showing us, and human interaction. I'm curious, what do you think about that? So do you think that it's kind of the same thing as are robots going to take over? But is it going to get to that level?
Are you talking about the chatbots and actually conversational interfaces?
Yeah, it could be conversational interfaces, but it's also a thing that I was talking to my last guest. We were talking about how we interact with screens at the moment and what he sees, and does he see, like, are we going to kind of merge with the technology that we already have, and this is kind of the same question in the sense that I'm curious to see how far we will go in that kind of voice technology and the whole chatbot thing. Are we going to be able to distinctly know if it's a human or a robot? Do you think we're getting there?
I think as long as the data is available, then it's okay. What you look at the chatbots, the availability. I mean, even on Skype, you have the chatbot availability, so you can implement it for yourself. But you never know. Some questions you can ask, but I believe there will always be. So for certain questions that you are asking that you're asking Siri for now, it works. But at a certain level, a human being will take over, because a computer maybe can recognize your frustration, but then you would like to speak with a real person, because the empathetic feeling that
a robot cannot do that, or a machine.
He can maybe recognize it, like facial recognition. Say, hey, Amir is mad, and he would like to speak with a real person.
Yeah, or for example, you're raising your voice or whatever.
Exactly. So that would be like a switch over. You have your chatbot, and then it switches over to a real phone operator. But then again, it's the same thing as with we're talking about data. You need data to be able to do that. So let's look at the autonomous car. They have jointly driven millions of miles together.
Yeah, for example, the Tesla thing.
The Tesla, the Google car. I don't know. Uber has also autonomous cars, etc. So why didn't we figure out how to drive, or to make it fully autonomous? Why are there still accidents, etc.? Because real stupidity beats artificial intelligence anytime. A computer can only do stuff that are abided by rules that are implemented. For example, let's say you're on the road, and somebody double parked and left half of his car on the road. This is a situation that you cannot count on. You never know when it's going to happen. You cannot. So if we would build a fully new land on Mars, and we say from day one, we're going to have autonomous cars and nothing else,
it will probably work.
It will probably work. But we have we're transitioning from a digital world, from a physical world into a digital world, and we still have a large physical world where we're doing everything ourselves. So as long as that is there, we'll always, have clinches and dangerous situations, no matter how much data we have.
Yeah, and I was thinking about the podcast that I was listening to with Elon Musk not too long ago, and he was also mentioning it, like, you need a lot of time to get all those old cars, quote unquote, out of there. So the lifespan of a normal car is like 20 years or something like that, 15 to 20 years. So it can take a while before we're still looking for getting the autonomous driving actually working. But also you have, as you said, you have like a legacy that still exists, and you're not going to you're not going to abolish it, and you're not going to convince everybody to say, okay, let's do
technologically everything is possible.
So
let's, we're moving fast forward, etc. But we still have the same laws and regulation. We have the same infrastructure. We have the old way of thinking. We have companies, huge corporations that are still working on systems that are 1990.
And banks and stuff like that.
Black boxes that nobody should touch, because if it breaks down, they don't know how to fix it. So to create a new world, you have to release the old one, and that transition is going to take very, very long. I think we're going to, step by step, jointly with law and regulation, with public services, etc. We're going to get there, and in between, we're going to make our life easier. And that is not AI taking over. It's just making, your doctor appointments easier, being able to recognize cancer cells within your body easier, make our way of life better.
Yeah, and do you think it should be regulated in a sense? Because with laws and regulations, it's always tricky, because every country has their own laws and regulations, right? So say for instance, you have the best maybe example is the internet, right? We don't really have laws and regulations for it, but there's still countries that kind of apply their own laws and regulations.
So this is a very interesting thing or subject that you mentioned, because I believe Assange wrote it in his book about the internet. So it's the greatest invention of all time, and it can be used to gather real information or as mass manipulation. So I can imagine that some countries don't want to have public internet widespread because it can cause mass manipulation. Of course, we have seen the elections, we've seen
in
all
America,
these things. So the uprise of fake news. So I can assume that technology is not applied everywhere. So I think the regulation is necessary. Or who is controlling the controller? If you want a mortgage and an algorithm decides that you're not eligible, then somebody should see why that algorithm figured that out, and not just believe that is all
It's all good.
It's all good.
Yeah.
And there is a bias. I believe that Supreme Court in America has kind of a test case where, I believe the penal system in America works. If you have 3 strikes, then you
you get a
life sentence.
Yeah, or at least you get a bigger sentence than you would have in normal cases.
Yeah, and they used the algorithm for it, just for testing, and the guy was convicted for life sentence, and then they peel down to see what the indicators are to make that decision, and color was one of the indicators or parameters within. So this is a bias that somebody put it in the algorithm.
Yeah.
So you need to control the controller. So you need to see the integrity of the person that is developing and test the basic parameters that are decisive for the
So basically, a human cannot create it because we always have bias, right?
We all have bias. These are made by your surroundings, by people that you talk to.
Your upbringing, where do you grow up?
Exactly. Your education, your way of consuming information. So you have all these different information streams coming over and people that affect you in positive or negative way. And these all form your biases. And we are developing the algorithm. So these
biases come in there,
of course,
regardless of. Everybody can have like a noble. You want to be noble in that sense, but what is noble? It's different for everybody.
Yeah, and I had a very interesting conversation with a professor from Erasmus University where we said, well, we have our ethical form. That is decisive for European countries, West European countries. And we said, well, maybe there should be a platform where all these ethical rules, where they're doing that right now from the Brussels, but they have algorithms that if you produce an algorithm like a company and it has effects on somebody else's life, like mortgage, a loan, a car loan, whatever, that it should pass the ethical norms first, before you can implement it.
Yeah, but as I said, the ethical norms are maybe different for us in regards to someone in a different part of the world or whatever.
Of course, but this would be for Europe alone.
So okay, for Europe.
For you.
Okay, sure,
for European Union, because the ethical rules and legal rules are applied to all the countries that are member.
Yeah, of course.
So then, as a company, you'll be abided to, send in your algorithm, it will be tested on ethical rules and law and regulation, and then you can implement it in your company.
Yeah, I'm thinking of that. You'll probably get the same thing like you have with the GDPR at the moment. So you have like the GDPR in the European Union, which is, you can say all things about it. It's a noble thing.
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing that they did it.
It's a protection.
Yeah.
Because we all click, do you agree on terms?
Yeah.
And we all say yes without reading 635 pages.
Oh yeah, of actual terms,
Yeah. And on page 633 there stands that they can use your data however they want.
Yeah, but it's different because they don't have those kind of laws in, for example, America or whatever. So it's noble that we are doing it right now, but you already see that companies that operate in an international way, so for example, American companies in the European Union, they struggle with that, right? So they struggle with implementing it because every continent or every country has their own rules. So I'm thinking if it would slow down the development of things that we are doing in terms of AI or whatever. I'm thinking if that's the case. I think it is. I think it is because what we've seen before is that laws and regulations usually mean that something is going to go slower than it is right now, right?
So maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you don't have laws and regulation for financial institution or insurers, etc., then they'll chip you at your birth. They'll analyze your blood. They'll get all the diseases that you potentially can do, and they'll say, "Well, we deny your assurance or insurance based on this,
on your genes or whatever."
Exactly. So you'll not be able to cope with things that are genetically passed to you by your parents without you being able to affect it. So you'll get like a data-driven society where only the best of the best or the people that can pay for the healthcare will survive.
That's a little bit like the Minority Report movie.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. There's imbalance, or I believe there is also a movie where the baby blood is taken in at the moment of birth, and they say, okay, he's not going to be this. He's going to go. So the intelligence coefficient is measured. Health, etc., and you're written off as soon as you are born.
Yeah, which is crazy, of course. I mean, it doesn't always. You cannot really tell what someone is going to become, right? In the later stages. As you said, it has to do with the environment you grew up in and stuff like that. Yeah, that's interesting. So, where do you think the future lies for TM7 as a company? Looking at you do natural language processing. What do you think the next step is there?
Well, we're growing in our platform. We're of course doing some really cool projects at this point. Also related to compliancy, law and regulation. So actually pushing out the routine checks on financial institutions. I believe that we are growing as a platform. We're growing as a product, and we're growing as a team. So the future is bright, and I think that in the next few years will grow rapidly, even more, and that we are going to become the leading NLP company in the Netherlands.
Yeah, so that's actually your goal, right? So you, of course, you want to make the NLP also better. I think than it is right now.
Of course.
And where do you see kind of opportunities there? So in making that NLP better, what do you think that will result in?
That's kind of tough question because this is predicting future.
Yeah,
and I believe that you can predict future 3 months ahead.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Planning is guessing, or the future is guessing as well.
Well, we're continuing as we're working on projects. We're continuously improving our library of algorithms and NLP repository. So I think that we will enrich and make it even more advanced. Where as we progress with our projects, every project is a learning environment. Even though you're repeating some things, you come across new challenges, and all these challenges are based in our repository. So at a certain level, you'll reach a maturity where you have it, most of it discovered or covered.
Yeah. So do you have a particular fault tolerance that you want to abide by? So how many? So for example, say I become a client and I have a lot of documents that is there kind of a fault tolerance that you also say to the client? Okay, it could be 90% good and maybe 10% will still be.
Okay, I'll tell you immediately. There, you cannot be 100% right.
Yeah, of course.
It's not possible.
Yeah.
So there is always room for that. So you can go up to 90%. You can even go up to 93%. But that's about it.
Yeah, that's also
100% is not achievable.
Yeah, I think that's correct, because in a sense we did that on our side. We tested with the NLP as well, and what we noticed was that we were almost always getting about 70-80% correct, just by measuring it, just by seeing, okay, this is probably 70 or 80% good.
Yeah.
And that's I think where the last 20% is the
most difficult.
The
80-20 rule, but other ways around.
Yeah. Where you would say that the last 20% is actually the human smartness.
Yeah. So this is why the analysis of the process and why you do things as you do, and so you have actually domain experts that you need to discover how you can get from what you said, your 80% up to 93%.
Okay, so I would like to wrap up. I have one more question that I always ask at the end. What are you most proud of since you started at TM7 in this case?
I'm really proud on the organization as a whole. I think that in the past year we have made a tremendous jump in organization. Of course, we had the new office. We're based in Apeldoorn right now, and we're growing with the team. So I think these are the three base things that I'm proud of.
Okay, cool. I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Amir.
And for the listeners, you can find TM7 on what domain can they find you on?
www.tm7.eu.
Okay. And for the listeners, the podcast can be found on bitsvsbytes.com. That's bitsvsbytes.com. And also on Instagram, SoundCloud, and Twitter. We're all Bits vs Bytes on all of those. And we are on Spotify now. That's also a new thing since recently. So you can find us there. Thank you for listening, and until next time.